So, I want to talk about a movie that I watched, the first movie of the year actually, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Um, this is the 1971 Gene Wilder version, and the reason I watched this movie is because I wanted to watch, like, start the year off on a good note as far as movies goes. And I've watched this movie half a dozen times. I've listened to it at least a dozen more. There used to be a site I used to go to, like, while working my old office job, to like listen to the audio of movies, and this and No Country for Old Men were like the two that I listened to like the most. Um, I also wanted to rewatch it because a newer one came out in 2023 with Timothy Chalamet, directed by the same director who directed the Paddington movies, which I adore. Um, so I think this movie is like one of my favorite movies of all time, and I was like really worried about like rewatching because I haven't like rewatched in a while, that it wasn't really gonna hold up, um, because it's like an older movie, but it doesn't have like that old timey like it's an older movie that tries to be a very high tech movie. Um, the best way I can describe it is like there's like a lot of like sci-fi elements like in this movie, which obviously like the special effect technology back then like wasn't what it is today, and it's a movie I watched a while back. I used to like love back in the day was RoboCop, and I remember like thinking like my memories of RoboCop were like that it was like a fantastic movie, like a marvel of its time, and then I rewatch it and the claymation mech comes out, and it's just one of the things I'm just like, how did I not remember this? It was like it completely took me out of the movie, and like there's other parts of the movie that like the CGI is and special effects like don't hold up at all, but like that part like in general, I'm just like this is the one of the cheesiest things like I've ever seen in my life, and I still love the movie. Don't get me wrong, but it's not it didn't hold up well. That being said, I think this movie holds up fantastically. Um, it's the main part to me that like really emphasizes like how good this movie is for its time is when they first walk into this room of the factory, and he starts his a musical number. um Come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination, like that song. And he's like, everything's edible in this room, and then you see the kids like run off in this room and start eating things that like you see like in like the opening shot, and it's just like I think like if they redid that same scene like nowadays, like the scale would be much bigger. Like it like literally looks like I don't know the size of like a basketball stadium. It's not massive, and like you think of like like the stories you've heard of this character, like this scene would be massive. Um, so like I like it is a product of its times, but at the same time, like I think it's like for its times, it's very much elevated. And like if I would have saw this in like 1971, if I would have been live back then, I would have think thought this was like the best movie ever. And it's still like one of my favorite movies of all times. So the another thing I want to talk about is it's kind of weird to me that like basically like all the child actors kind of like fade like into obscurity. Whereas obviously Gene Wilder is a very prolific actor. Obviously this, Sing in the Rain, Blazing Saddles, to name a few like very more popular movies. But like Charlie, for example, like basically they were trying to get him to sign on for like a 3-year deal to make this into a trilogy. Because if you read the books, there's a trilogy there. It kind of gets like a little like darker and like a little bit more abstract. I would have loved to see it, and like even like with the Charlie Depp movie, I was like hoping like that they'd go more into that. And I haven't seen like the new Wonka yet, but like I'm kind of hoping that they either set up for that or they go there like in that movie or they allude to it or something. Um, but he ended up leaving like the industry like altogether. So I don't know if he just had like a bad experience or what happened, and he became a vet. So good for him and everything. But it's kind of shameful that this movie that was uh, I don't even know like how well it did back in the day. Like I have a hard time thinking this movie like did poorly like, in the box office. Um, just like looking at other movies um, around that same time, but like Office Space like flopped hard, and it's just like you look at Office Space now, it's just like what, and it makes sense for like in retrospect, like you look at Office Space and you're like, okay, like nothing about this movie like crazy, like entertaining, but like it's kind of built like a cult status of its popularity. Um, all the songs like in this are very memorable too. It starts out with the Candyman can. Um, Obviously, pure imagination. All the Oompa Loompa songs, just you know, top tier. And I don't remember like any songs like in like the Johnny Depp version, Tim Burton Johnny Depp one, which I'm gonna rewatch. Sometime this week or next week, and before I watch like the new one. But I know like the new one has songs in it, so I'm glad that they returned to form because I know like Disney, for example, is removing songs from all their films, and it's just like I don't know. I'm a sucker for musicals, so like a lot of movies, like that's like the part that like I take away from it, and like that lives on and like reminds me of that movie. Um, I'm trying to think of an example, but the only one that's coming to the top of my head, which is not a great example, but does still like, prove my point, is his marriage story with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. Adam Driver sings "Being Alive" at the end of it, which is I can't think of his name now. Stephen Sondheim, I want to say something like that. He had a musical, a stage production musical, and it's borrowed from that, and it's referencing that. But I still go back and like listen to that Adam Driver version of that song, just because it's a musical number and like it reminds me of that movie, and like that's like what I took away from it. Like obviously there's a lot of other scenes, but I'm not gonna sit there and rewatch like the whole movie because it's very emotional at times, and it's very heavy at times. But that song, like I can reminisce of that movie without taking in like the whole movie, if that makes sense. I don't know. Either way, and then obviously like like I drive for a living, so like a lot of times like I'm listening to stuff like I'll re-listen to movies, but like stuff like La La Land, which is a musical and has like a lot of like musical numbers in it, is a lot easier to listen to without the visuals than something like Country for Old Men, for example, which is like minimal dialogue, is very ambient, and um, doesn't really have like a lot of um, audio stuff going on at all times. The audio stuff that it does have going on is very memorable, obviously. But anyways, the my only complaint about this is like the final line in the movie, which I think is just kind of like over the top cheesy, and it could be like a product of its times. But Gene Wilder's character says something along the lines of, "Be careful, Charlie. Don't forget like what happened to the kid who got everything he wanted." And Charlie's like, "What happened to him?" And Willy Wonka goes, "He lived happily ever after." And it's just like it's a little too on the nose for me. I don't know if it's again like a thing of the times, but it's like literally my only complaint about this movie, and it's very unfortunate that it's like the last line of the movie. Um, if you are into watching cinema history though, and watching old charming movies, very unique movies, I highly recommend this. It's almost a movie I'd recommend to anyone, like anyone at all. It's weird because it's also rated G, but there are a couple like darker scenes in it. Like like the main story. I guess I should have went over this earlier, but the main story is that this Willy Wonka owns a chocolate factory, and he's kind of been like a recluse for like the past however long, and in order to revitalize his factory, he hides these golden tickets inside his chocolate bars. So there are mass hysteria of people buying up these chocolate bars and trying to find these tickets. Charlie finds a ticket. There's a kid that's into like old westerns finds the tickets. There's the kid who's eats like a lot, like he's comically obese, like this punchline in the movie. There's a girl who her shtick is that she likes to chew gum, and then there's a girl who's very entitled, and one by one they kind of fall to their their negative characteristics. So like obviously like this kid that likes old westerns, he this is a much spoiler alert, but the movie came out 50 years ago at this point. He Willy Wonka's making this technology that turns a chocolate bar, a very large chocolate bar, and can transport it into someone's TV, just like we do like with radio waves for picture, but it makes the chocolate bar like a lot smaller on the other end of it. So the kid's like, oh no, I want to do this. I love TV. So he gets in the machine, and obviously it's very small afterwards. So things like that happen. But that can be like pretty dark for like a very young kid. And then there's a scene like where they're go down this tunnel, and it's for whatever reason like shot like a horror film. But other than that, I highly recommend this movie like to anyone. I wasn't really sure I was gonna make this review, just because I wasn't sure like how to talk about like movies I've seen like a million times like this, like separating from like the nostalgia factor of growing up and everything. And another thing I should mention too is I think like all like the performances are fantastic. Not only like the child actors, but like Gene Wilder, he's kind of like a guy like I kind of wish like I was like around back in the day to follow his career, like someone like Adam Driver, like nowadays, like because if I was the same person back then, I'd be following like every single movie that Gene Wilder did just to watch like his different performances, because like he's really like a person that transforms into each character he's playing. Obviously, like like I said, like Blazing Saddles is this overtly racist Western movie, and Singing in the Rain, he's literally singing in the rain, and it's another musical number. But these are very wildly different acting roles, and I'm sure he's done like other stuff that I can't think of off the top of my head that is even further. I don't know about the kids as far as the acting process goes, because a lot of they probably got typecasted, I imagine. But they all fit like their roles perfectly well, and I don't know. It's really hard to like look back and like find flaws in this movie. I'll just put it that way. Like, I guess like the only thing I can think of is like they play like the same shtick. Well, other than the ending line, but anyways, they play the same shtick over multiple times, like where Charlie keeps buying chocolate bars, thinking that he's gonna get like a golden ticket, and obviously he doesn't until like he proceeds. So I could see that getting tiresome like in a way, and then like I guess the same thing too, like because it's like a kid's movie, it's kind of like you know where the story's going. Like I don't know. It's hard to fault the movie for these things. So like this is like very very tight nitpicking. Like I'd give this movie like a 5 out of 5 easy. Like top my top 100 movies of all time, like easily. Like but yeah, I'll have a review of, I believe it's called Charlie and Chocolate Factory, which is like the second one, the Tim Burton one with Johnny Depp in it. I'll have a review of that coming soon, and then I'll have a review of Wonka coming soon as well. I can't put timelines on those, but I think that's everything. Bye.